So the name of the game today is I have FreeCAD and Alibre, and I want to compare the two of them because I believe they can augment each other and make you be able to do things that you couldn't do with either one on their own. I can do things in FreeCAD that I can't do in Alibre, and I can do things in Alibre that I can't do in FreeCAD. And because Alibre is so low cost, I think it is one of the best values for the money. In fact, the best value for the money you can get anywhere in CAD. That's my personal opinion. So I love using Alibre, and I think it makes a great companion to the things that I do in FreeCAD. Let's go through a few examples. I'm going to open up my first SolidWorks model here in FreeCAD. Did I say my first SolidWorks model? My first FreeCAD model, right? This is probably, if not the first model I've ever made, and I have a video on YouTube of me making this where I didn't know anything really about FreeCAD, but I was still able to make this just with my SolidWorks knowledge. And from that moment on, I thought that FreeCAD was just the bee's knees, and what do you know, I still do. Let's take a look. If I highlight my body and say Part, Check Geometry, we're just going to make sure that this has some integrity here. And yep, we have 0 invalid shapes. So we're looking all right. Our close button is hiding back here. So we'll go ahead and close our checker, and let's go to part design. And let's say that I want to fillet this edge, and I add my fillet feature. I choose 1 millimeter. I choose OK, and let's see what happens. And I get a failed to create fillet. So sometimes you just can't add a fillet, right? It's a geometry thing in the kernel. Fillets are tricky. They're tricky for every platform. I haven't used a platform that I haven't had a situation where I couldn't create a fillet. This is not unique to FreeCAD. But let's run this on down to Alibre, right? So what I've done is I've saved this wheel as a step file. You can download this step file and this native file off my GrabCAD. Remind me to put a link in the description if it's not there. So I'm going to take my step file, stick it into Alibre, and we know the geometry is good, so I'm just going to heal it anyway in case that there's something that breaks in the process of importing the step file for some reason, which again is not exclusive to Alibre, right? That happens in SolidWorks and other places. So we're going to import this wheel here. All right, so here's our wheel all healed and processed and shiny and beautiful, and it has all the same little flaws that I had in FreeCAD, right? When I modeled that wheel in FreeCAD, for some reason this didn't go away. But let's take a look at this edge and add a fillet. That would be 1 millimeter. I just changed the number to 1 and apply. I've added a 1 millimeter fillet, no problem, right? So when you are dealing with something that's molded or casted or something like that, or a time when you just have to have a fillet, Alibre has really strong fillets, and it's really handy to be able to have more confidence in adding fillets. So that's a great strength that Alibre has, and it is one way of several that your abilities are augmented. Well, in fact, let me grab this edge here. I'm going to say fillet. I can also have this ability to do a variable radius fillet, and I can make one end, say, 2 millimeters and the other end 0.5 millimeter, and have a tapered radius from one end to the other. So I've got one radius there and another radius there, and maybe it's not that obvious that it gets bigger, so let's try something like 5 and see if it'll handle that. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the radius change there, but it did. Let's try 10. I'm getting daring now. Still likes 10, 30. You can see just this little tip is changing so far. Wow, I can go quite large, 100. Okay, well, I won't make you all sit through this, but you can tell that you can change geometry through variable radius. Oh, and there it goes again. So that's cool. Yep, it comes down here to 0.5 millimeter, and then either end will go up to 100. And that makes for a really cool product, right? So if I apply that, I have some very powerful abilities with fillets. Lofting in Alibre is also pretty amazing. But again, I'm just talking about some of the things where if you get stuck in FreeCAD or stuck in Alibre, you can get yourself unstuck by using the other platform. And this is one way, right? So if I'm all done with my wheel and I still have some fillets that I need to add, I can just jump it into Alibre and finish it off. Now, I've done a video on making a wheel, speaking of wheels, in the Alibre Pro license, where I use a Boolean. And all of the Atom people may be saying, well, look, I can't do a Boolean in Alibre Atom, so should I not get it? And I think you should still buy Alibre Atom, because you can use FreeCAD to round out the capabilities. So if I close this, you can see in Alibre, so you can see in the Pro license I use 2 different solids and a Boolean to make a wheel. Yet I can do that same thing in FreeCAD, and let me give you a quick example. I've got the step file that covers my extrusion, which I made right here, and then I made a separate step file that covers the revolve that I made, and these, of course, files import in each other. So right there's my revolve of my wheel, and then I can show the extrusion that I made. And if I run a Boolean, then I can do the same thing in FreeCAD that rounds out my abilities in Alibre, right? So we'll take this intersection, and there we go. We've created our wheel. You can also download this from my GrabCAD. Remind me to put the link in if it's missing, and start having fun with this. So these models were made in Alibre, but now I was able to use Booleans to simply create the wheel that I was intending to in FreeCAD. So FreeCAD can present Booleans, where Alibre can present fillets, and there's even more. I can make a model in Alibre and use finite element analysis in FreeCAD to analyze it. Now there are some limitations as we go throughout this, and that would be, right, if I head over to my tree, these are coming in, of course, as just bodies, or what we call dumb solids. These dumb solids do not have history trees. So if I want to adjust, say, the thickness of my spokes, I would probably be best to edit that in Alibre, reconvert it to a step, and re-import it. So sometimes changes can be a little bit heavier, and that is true the other way around with FreeCAD. So if I have to change something on that other wheel, before I'd made the fillets, I'd have to re-export it to Alibre and then redo the fillets. So updates can be a lot more work. One way to try to work around that is to make sure that when you export it to another platform, the changes you make in that platform are the last thing you need to do. Just like fillets, you naturally save them for the end anyway. These general workarounds should be able to augment your abilities pretty greatly when you go to model. So those are just some examples that I wanted to share. I'm sure that there is many, many, many more ways that you can augment your abilities by working between the 2 platforms. And again, these are really cool. So check out Alibre Atom if you haven't. It is super cool, and it's very affordable. I think it's the best platform for the money, period, as far as any paid or proprietary CAD modeling platform goes. Highly recommend it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.